Welcome back, friends, to APAC North Sandbox Gaming against Spear Gaming. Everybody's gaming in this game. Now let's see who can take our final one. All Korean, yes, Emmy. You are laughing.
Yeah, everybody's gaming.
Would you like to tell the class?
Yeah, like everybody's gaming. You gaming?
No, I'm analysing. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Most people are gaming.
All right, well, fair enough. Tim is back, so we'll be casting with Des, and we have you all to our own here demo.
I mean, you kind of did anyway. I had to do both still.
Ooh. You can put that on your resume. Spear Gaming, what can they bring for this match?
They're going to have to bring a lot. They're against one of the big three, as I have kind of dubbed, kind of like Damwon Kia and Sandbox, of course. So I think Spear, last split, didn't really show us much to go off. I think they've had, a good, okay start. One win, which I think is okay for them. But this is still going to be a very difficult challenge against a big old dog in the cage.
I mean, difficult is Spear's first, middle, and last name. I think you have a look at this roster. They only really usually spring into action in there the last two games. That was just a preview of the most recent split, but it's every single split. You go back on them for a while. They have a habit of only finding momentum when everything has already gone out the window. And it's, it was a good start for them. It was victory early on. They did some damage, but it was never a story of are they going to be in the top two. It was are they going to be in the middle of the pack. If they have a chance to do some damage to the top two when they're struggling, it spells at least a better story than the usual one.
Now, there's been some damage done to Sandbox Gaming. They've lost in the first Playday against Reject 7-5, so not getting a single point out of that Playday. And then, of course, last Playday, defeating Fav, but it seems like everybody's defeating Fav every now and then, so that's another sort of story there. But can Sandbox keep it up? Because now the fight is on. You're talking about the top three. There might be more contenders, and there's only 2 spots for APAC North.
Yeah, I think Sandbox should go into this game similar fashion to what they done to Fav, really, and just come in with a nice, clean, comfortable victory, similar to what I think, especially since Damwon Kia beat Talon in a very good fashion. I think Sandbox has to respond with, again, another clean victory, because no offense to Spear, this should just be, play food for the most part, I think, for Sandbox.
I think it's the thing as well now that you've got Cyclops. They're not clear at the top. They've struggled a little, but the team that took blood from Sandbox was the team that just took a bit of blood from Cyclops. They need to have everything else going for them if they're going to have a chance of leapfrogging these other teams that are putting in this good competition. It doesn't matter whether Damwon Kia do stuff if the team that's already beat you, Reject, has taken points from the team that you need to beat at the top of the board.
A lot on the line here for Sandbox. This top 2 fight, it has to happen now. And we heard it from Rin earlier today for Damwon Kia that they're going to plan on winning all of it. Same thing from Cyclops. Those 2 teams are up for blood. And Sandbox, they're going to have to pull the maximum for it. And Spear standing in their way today. Which map will we be on then in this matchup? That's my question that I hope we'll answer within the next few seconds as the map bands will roll on your screen. There you go. On the right-hand side, you'll see 9-map pool, 8 are out, 1 is left, and it's Sandbox will have the last say. They take us to bank, removing border, and start off on the attack. Spear have picked the fence starting side. Look at that grin. What's going on?
Des has to cast Sandbox and bank again, which he just cannot wait for.
He's writing a strongly worded email.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, they played it last week. Des says he hated every single second of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would hope the Sandbox have reviewed that very in depth, and hopefully they can respond, because I mean, a team like Sandbox, it's a map that isn't going to restrict players such as Good Boy, who I think we'll always look to as being that main man. So I think if they can just loosen up a little bit, and really, I get the whole idea of you have to play for pressure. Every game matters because there's so few games, but against a team like Spear, I don't think Sandbox should be stressing out.
It was brains out, guns in Siege last week, and they need a little bit of brains in. They need a little bit of that. Spear are a slow setup team. Spear are a team that, they'll have 5 different operators in 5 different entire locations and then go for the execute at around 45 seconds. Bank doesn't quite offer that space, but if Sandbox are just willy-nillying around on the place again, it probably will reward Spear and Spear's method of play.
If there's any players to watch for, one from each side, really, who would you watch out for in this game specifically?
Good Boy and Mephi, I think, being the 2 entries, those 2 are going to clash a lot in this game.
Agreed? No, I think it's agreed.
Fair enough. Well, we're seeing Sandbox, probably the team that can take this. But Spear, what can they pull on the other side? Any operator bans that might come up here for Bank? Because, I mean,
Nook ban has to obviously come into
even in
it.
APAC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, even APAC have shown today that how
Exactly.
crutch they can be in that operator.
it's the thing of everyone has the lesson of Nook. Nook forces teams to have to play a second entire style on their defense. They have to pay attention to an entirely different facet of play. Get rid of Nook, you get rid of that idea. It used to be the same with Thatcher. Thatcher was a restrictive thing. Now there's pocket MPs. Who's the pocket hell? I don't know.
Pocket.
We'll have to find out. Demo, I mean, thank you very much. But hey, it's Spear Gaming and Sandbox Gaming. We're all gaming here. We go to Des Gaming and Ace Gaming. Enjoy.
So close.
Des Gaming and Ace Gaming. So then your new,
I like it.
your new channel, is it, Tim? Ace Gaming.
I like it.
I like Tim Tam. Oh, we're even called it
I'm
on the
all,
bottom
I'm
as
all
well.
about gaming. Everybody's gaming.
Why are production so on this, so sharp? They had the whole Descatue thing in like 5 seconds
I've
earlier.
only just noticed that.
Yeah, that's what
Well
you know.
done.
I was just like, how has this happened so quick? It's brilliant. Either way, we get to sit with us for a few seconds. We're going to go for a quick rehost, Tim. So get to look at our beautiful faces. How are you
Ooh,
today,
how
buddy?
lucky. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much, Des. Glad to be back with everybody in for Game 4. Demo did a great job on Game 3. So
Did I do a great job of bullying him?
of course,
Obviously.
I mean, if you're going to give him the full casting with Des experience that I have to tolerate every time, you might as well, give him the full work.
Can you share him 3 tips on how to deal with me? Because he seemed to struggle with that and didn't understand how you did it. So I figured after a few years, you've probably got a pretty good book of ways to deal with the chaos.
There's only one way that you need, really. That's just to ignore you. Just switch off to it.
Demo couldn't do that, though. I said Shagger and he got really upset.
Yeah, he got a bit rattled by that.
Yeah,
didn't
he's thinking about walking away now, I think. Do you want to come take a pew? Do you want to come sit down with us? Do you want to sit with me again, he said. He doesn't want to sit next to me anymore.
he? No, that's...
Don't blame
One
him.
game can be enough for some days, but it's, it's water off a duck's back. I just enjoy it. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment.
Maybe you are, Tim. Maybe you are. No, Demo sure isn't. But this game itself, we'll talk about it for a second. Bank. Now, I did very openly declare that I thought last week's game between Sandbox and Fav on this map was the worst of the calendar year, and I think I'll stand by that. It was a game.
It wasn't the best that we've seen.
It was a game. I'll leave it at that. Whereas you look at...
It was No Face versus Rogue.
No, it wasn't. You're absolutely right. But then you look at Spear, for example. Their last 2 games in this map have been 7 and 5. They were pretty close, pretty tight. So hopefully they can do the same against Sandbox and we get a good game out of it, rather than Sandbox just sweeping over their Korean brethren.
I think the important thing that's going to determine how good this game is Sandbox turning up and playing Siege, rather than Sandbox turning up and playing Ranked or, whatever it was that they did last week. I think, if they turn up and they start putting it down in the server, it's going to force Spear to elevate themselves. It's going to force them to put in a better performance and we get a better game all round. If Sandbox don't and they come in throwing rounds away again, then, it could be another painful day for them. I think they're going to have learned a lot off the back of last week.
Is 11 back now? 11 has been back in now, hasn't he, for a couple of games? Yeah, so really it's trying to see him ramping back up, I'm probably most excited about seeing Mephi versus Good Boy, to be honest with you. 2 of the young 18-year-old gunners that I was celebrating a lot over the last year or so and saying they will help elevate APAC to a new level. Both have been playing pretty well across the year, so it's always a good showdown when those 2 come head-to-head. The only difficulty is the kind of caliber of the team behind those 4 players.
Yeah, exactly that. And the thing is, Bank is, and this is part of the problem I think that Sandbox saw last week out. You name a few big players on either side of the board there. They need to be gelling together to have success on Bank. It's a big map. You've got to work together. You've got to play for your trades. You've got to work off each other's contact. You can't just go out there, solo, just running around. You might get a good player here and there, but you're going to get punished more often than not by a team that works as a team. On Oregon, for example, you go for a run out on your own, you can get away with it. Even if you get pinched, you can often escape. You can wriggle your way back to site. It just doesn't happen the same here on Bank. If you're out in the map, you got to find success and you got to work together. You got to have somebody out there with you, because otherwise, an attacking team closing down roamers as a team will have a field day.
You're very lucky we got saved by the bell there, Tim, because my next topic of conversation was how much your head looks like an egg from here.
Well, lucky me. I'm so glad that I came back.
A very hairy egg, but it looks like an egg all the same. Demo was asking earlier, because I'm sure that many of you have observed him over time. He doesn't always sit there perfectly bald. He lets it grow a little bit, then he shaves it off and so on and so forth, because who's got time to shave it every single day? And then Demo was like, why has Tim got hair? I was like, he does that quite a lot. And he's like, that's not allowed, he's bald. And I'm like, but he's not all the time.
It never goes down to skin.
No,
it never
no.
goes all the way.
You always have a little,
To the wood, as we might say
cozy,
up
fluffy
north.
buzz on top of your head, and that's about it sometimes. Yeah, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Although when I need you to be my crystal ball, you do have to shave everything.
It'll come to Demo one day. His hairline's a bit wonky anyway. And I know that he's sat there going, no, it's not!
Pew, 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 pew. Tim's out here with the pistols. Look at him go.
I know that Demo's wounded somewhere now. He's checking a mirror and he's arguing with me.
I love this
I
new
can't hear
Tim.
him.
You haven't taken any prisoners a couple of times in the last 24 hours. I'm here for it.
Told you, Des.
Welcome to chaos, Tim. Embrace chaos. Righty, bans have already rifled on through. Obviously, the two notable ones will be the first two. The Nook that we spoke about, the Desk also spoke about this. So commonplace on this map in general, because backstabs from Nook can just be world-ending. The Oscar's quite an interesting one against Sandbox. We have seen them employ it a couple of times. Teams have been using it on this map for attacking in towards CEO, for example. G2, once upon a time, used it to attack in towards Basement as well. So there are just options available with that operator that can make things quite frustrating. My question mark now turns is when we see Sandbox in towards the later rounds, will we see a lot of Monty being picked up? They did have it hovered over here but are changing away, but obviously a good alternative towards bringing the Ossa would be that Monty.
It would, on the flip side, on the side of the defenders, two to keep an eye on, actually. Interestingly, we've got Sayora there on Capcan that I'm going to touch on first. Always an interesting one because, along with any traps, Capcan is going to burn a bit of time because those drones have to be extra careful going in. You've got to think about every doorway that you're going through. They're going to get put in tricky little spots like that between the filing cabinet and the wall. And you've got to make sure that you bang on it so that you're not, it's a cheap death if you go through a double trap door and end up losing a life over it. So they really don't want to be doing that Sandbox. It's going to burn time. They need to make sure they move in quickly so that they don't fall foul of that clock. Also, Mephi, one to watch. We've already said, Demo picked up on it quite rightly, how important he's been for this Spear gaming side. He can be an absolute nightmare, and he's out on the vigil. That, again, is going to take something that Sandbox didn't show us last time out on Bank, and that is thorough droning and teamwork.
This is the thing, right? It's one thing that I look at Sandbox. I mean, they've already got an eye on it here as well. They know roughly where he is. He's now stepped away, being challenged from the window, going in for the 1v1, but Zarakazi to get the win as Good Boy finds a second as well. Two members of Spear taken offline inside the first 60 seconds. My only reservation now, Tim, any other team I think I'll be happy with this. My issue is it's Sandbox, and they are not good at getting entries and closing rounds.
No, not necessarily. But what I would say is I came in here saying I want better teamwork from Sandbox. And what have we immediately got? Better teamwork from Sandbox. Droning, pushing together, kill from the window. Absolutely perfect onto Mephi. Royboy's gone as well. So that's now 5 versus 3. They've got to lock this down. That's a freebie onto the Capcan. Arakaze using the space that he's created for himself fantastically well.
Crazy Boy doing his best to get away with the yokai, but Good Boy's going hunting, sees it and takes it out for free. This is what I spoke about during the cast with Demos. The difference between DPEC and a lot of other players is DPEC won't use the yokais in that kind of context. Uses it in the early round for a bit of support, a bit of information out drone holes, for example, or assisting Sploit on the roam, but then those drones are brought very close back towards site to help with information and denial later in the round. Very rarely will they be used super aggressively in the mid-round where he can lose them too freely.
Sandbox need to get themselves moving. They've done some great work. They've got top floor, they've got mid floor. They're 5 versus 2, Des. They could just push into site here. They don't. I'm not saying that they're messing about with hatchers. They're not. This is, still paying the due diligence. They know that rounds can be lost from this point, but let's have a little bit of aggression as well. 40 seconds left to go. Don't leave it until there's 10 seconds to be putting the diffuser down on the ground. You're 5 versus 2. There's no reason. You can go in, mob-handed. You can go in with a few of you at the same time and start looking for those kills. Static is in a position to think about pushing into site here. The diffuser isn't in position there, so not going to be able to go down just yet. Good Boy gets the kill onto Crazy Boy. One boy to another, taking him down, and that is now going to leave NL on the hunt through Vault, but he's going to need an absolute miracle here in a 1v5. He drops the diffuser though, Des. There's 10 seconds to go, but Sandbox know exactly where he is. Surely he can't hold on. No, he cannot. Shiol shuts him down, and that's going to be the round for Sandbox. But boy, oh boy, and this is why I was saying, Des, I didn't want them leaving it to 10 seconds left when they were in a 5v2. Get on with it.
It's like I said to you earlier on as well, Tim, the number of times these guys have found the entry and still given rounds away just makes me nervous at every single juncture. And that was almost one at the very end there as well. But very fortunately, all 4 players descending on the final man and getting the closeout that we are looking for. One thing I will say, despite that slightly messy ending, that's more of what I came to expect from Sandbox last week. That's the kind of team play that I hope to see their entries working together to close down and pinch on towards players, establish early control, and then look to overwhelm the enemy with your man advantage. What I almost want to start seeing in later rounds from Sandbox is more pace. Think about teams, I know we talk about EUL a lot, but think about like Rogue, let's think about teams like Heroic, things like Wolves. You know, the fact that these guys can get to the final 30 seconds of a round and then just go 3, 2, 1, go, and everyone moves at the same time with real breakneck speed. That's what can overwhelm teams, and I think it's something that Sandbox is still missing in some areas.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It was sort of a speed slope rather than a speed ramp at the end there. You know, what we want to see, like you say, in that 5 versus 2, I'm not saying just dive in and throw your lives away looking for kills. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is get yourself into position quickly. In a 5v2, it doesn't have to be perfect. Get in there and get the job done.
Yes.
Don't let them set themselves. Don't let them, prepare for that situation. Shock and awe, get the job done. Bit more clinical. Like you say, Sandbox, it was very much plodding along even in those last 30 seconds rather than a Rogue style. Right, let's go, bang, round 1, done. That's what I'd prefer to see.
So now we've stepped away from attacking into the basement where there are a lot of hatches to get open, 5 of them in total, where her banner becomes incredibly powerful. MV now has the freedom to step away from playing second hard breach and get onto the Decabian. Operator, like we touched on earlier on, was already relatively popular in APAC North, but has only grown with the introduction of the EMP grenades. Worth saying though, MV is not playing said grenades. I think because we're seeing the Kai banned away, this is probably why they've done this, is it lets them play with the agency instead to bring along utility burn, and they've also got them in the back pocket of the Monty. Good boy finding NL nice and early in the round. Again, another entry for Sandbox. Now they've got to keep on stepping it up there and build up the pressure.
Good start, once again, and especially with that Monty on side, because what it does is it just creates a little bit of space for Monty. Sometimes I'd almost look at Monty in an offensive sense. I know, overall he brings a lot more to the table, but in an actual offensive situation where you're pushing forward, Monty is kind of half an operator. He's not going in there with gun drawn. He's not going in there having an impact on the other players. He's able to push them around, disrupt them, move them, but can't get those kills, not immediately, without dropping his cover. So for me, you sort of like half an operator sometimes. NL dying now gives Sandbox a bit more flexibility. Monty can push in. Arakaze, we know how fantastic a shield player he is. He can push in and he can make a nuisance of himself without Sandbox really losing anything in terms of manpower. They're still 4v4, even if you discount him from it. So that's great. Good boy. He's working underneath again. Not a second nade kill. No, he's not going to find his man this time. The ping was there, but it doesn't matter because Envy's on the window. Gets his man.
Hit sight.
Straight out, though. Can he make it back in? That's the question.
I'm sure he can, but they can hit sight. It's 4 versus 2 on site now as a result. This is where Sandbox have got to pick up that pressure. But Good Boy's still going to find him anyway. That's a great pickup. As said, 4v2, now is a good time to think about pushing in towards site. But rather than having a big aggressive push, they opt to clean up the player they know they can catch out. So it was good decision making. Static on the flank as well, watching the last man. Crazy Boy does find a kill, but with that kill gives away his position. And with a Monty still on field, Tim, we know exactly how difficult this is going to prove to be.
Oh, it was inevitable at that point. And in 3v1 with a Monty as part of the 3, I really don't expect a defender to be able to do much in that situation. And that was a good round once again, well finished off by Sandbox. They took a couple of opportunities there. Mefe, he took a roll of the dice. He threw himself out of the window. In all honesty, you don't generally get away with it on bank. You might get yourself a kill, but it's not often that you'll get yourself back in the map safely. He managed to get back in, but it doesn't matter because you know exactly where he's coming from. So by the time you push in through an electrical door, there's going to be a gun trained on you. You're likely to lose your life. So it was, it was a good effort, but it didn't pan out. Sandbox once again took good advantage of it, locked down those angles, didn't allow the defenders to make the rotations they wanted to make up for that man disadvantage, and got themselves a good win.
Absolutely. Just little things from Sandbox that look far more clean than last week. One, the team play, I think is probably the key thing I'm seeing. The entries they're finding is normally coming as a result of team play. that they're then grouping up and looking to push as a team rather than trying to keep themselves split and pushing throughout the map. But arguably the confidence is also there as well, which I probably think is more an outcome of that teamwork coming together. But they're happy to take gunfights. They feel confident sat on the flank like you saw from Static in that previous round. It doesn't look shaky or nervous or like they've not had a warm-up, for example. They haven't played Siege for a few weeks. Instead, no, they look fully primed and ready to get this win. And this is looking much more like the Sandbox that I think everyone wanted to see coming into the stage and believed that we would see in order to fight Damwon, Kia and Cyclops for one of those top 2 spots.
Here we go then, round number 3. We're going to see our third site. Spear losing the first 2 reasonably comprehensively and deciding to move on each time. This time it's going to be open and staff area for them. So top floor clearance once again, similar to round 1 that we saw from Sandbox. They did it fantastically well then. Shyle is going to spot out Crazy Boy on the Aruni. So Crazy Boy's days could be numbered here. They know that he's at Marble Stairs and he's going to find himself challenged quickly. There's the drop, there's the kill. Absolutely love that from Shyle.
You call him Shyle, I call him Seal, Tim. Saw absolutely everything on Marble there as well. Didn't matter where he moved to. Had assistance and goes in for a second as well. Turns out maybe now he's also got a 4th eye. He can see through the walls and know exactly what's going on. Not quite hacks, but still has a fantastic sense of intuition. Shah now looking to work his way down Marble for the next man that's trying to swing him out from bleepers. And with the audio sound coming out, it's normally a sign that there is someone lurking. But by the looks of it, also has the sneaking suspicion that someone could still be around Tellers and Archives.
Arakaze is into the top floor on the book now. He's got complete freedom of that floor to be able to just have a look around, but tell you what, that freedom's ripped away from him as the Nitro gets ripped by NL. Beautiful play, just second guessing where the book was moving based on where those holes were being opened up and manages to get himself what could be an important kill. It sort of brings Spear back into the round a little bit. They've got 3 down towards site. They pretty much now have limited that top floor pressure to whatever is currently open. Sandbox are not going to be able to do any further work, so this next kill is going to be particularly important.
It's kind of slow and steady pressure here towards Archives as well because they want that push into admin office that then gets you directly in towards the site. Royboy interesting dropping away into the basement so he can come for a flank up blue, assuming that that's maybe where some push will come in. But as it stands, not too sure.
NL just waiting on the hatch. He's not going to be dropping down it, of course, because he's currently in the site. They're not playing underneath, but he's just aware that there could be somebody down there trying to hunt Royboy. If somebody tries to move underneath, tries to find that kill, it could be shut down from the hatch. They know he's coming, Des. There's absolutely no way Royboy gets away with this. Perfectly played. Good boy onto Royboy once again. The battle of the boys coming down and falling on the favourite of Good Boy. We're going to have that triple wall opened up. The impact nade will not be successful. 17 seconds though. The time could be the factor here for Sandbox. And Seora, he's holding on, Des. He manages to find one. 13 seconds. Can't find the second though. Static with a beautiful shot down the side of the keeper. Barricade is going to close out the round, and that is Sandbox 3-0.
I can't think of a time I've seen a team that's looking to focus on getting inside of open area to turn around and actively challenge blue. I've seen a number of teams, Damwon Kia being one of them, against international competition that gets a flank up blue stairs, kills 2 people and gets away with it. We've seen similar stuff in Europe, for example. But to see a team turn around and flash blue stairs and actively go after the player is a really interesting adaptation that I don't think I've seen before. Good stuff by Sandbox overall. Understandably, Spear, they've seen enough. They've tried their 3 main sites. They've lost every single one. Sometimes it's just worth getting that pause, that reset in, even if there isn't something strictly that you can see going wrong, just to give the boys time to breathe, to get the communication back online. It worked for Fnatic earlier. Maybe it works here for Spear.
It's going to have to be a big turnaround, in all honesty. I think the problem that Spear have got, it's not really momentum-based. I mean, yes, Sandbox have a bit of momentum behind them, but the problem is the way that Sandbox playing. No matter what Spear put in front of them, as you say, the blue stairs there, they're just getting aggressive on it, they're challenging it, they've seen an opportunity for a kill. We saw it twice in that round. Shyle sees his man on Marble Stairs, he goes straight in for that. How often do you see a player just vault over there and drop down behind somebody to get a kill? It's so rare because it doesn't usually work out, but they've just got that confidence behind them at the minute. You said yourself, we barely ever see that challenge onto blue stairs. They're happy to just chase the person away, but no, they're seeing that opportunity, they're smelling the blood in the water, and they're going straight after it. And right now, they are taking huge bites out of Spear Gaming.
Like a big, ripe cherry, Tim. I honestly really thought you'd turn around and say a big bite of the cherry. Bite of the cherry. How do you say cherry?
like anybody else does.
No. How do you say cherry? Say it for me.
Cherry.
Cherry.
See, that's just
Cherry.
no. You're forcing it.
Cherry.
Now. You know that? No.
No, not having this. Not having this.
Not having that.
Oh, you said cheddar, Tim. I heard you. Don't worry. I'll make sure I get it right next time. Thank you very much. Cool. So let's keep on shaping on then. Hopefully after that small interlude, we are going to see a bit of a change. Got the Valkyrie on side. Otherwise, things look relatively similar to how we've seen them before. Mephi back on that Vigil once again, looking to cause trouble out on the roam. Keeping a close eye on Royboy and the damage that he might do as the round progresses. Last time around, it was a flank up blue that was going to be the round winning the show, stopping play from Spear, but just never really came to light as it was well read by Sandbox.
Crazy Boy playing a little bit further down those marble stairs this time. No surprises there. Not playing as far as the top. He is not going to be challenged on a drop down from the skylight. But the thing is, this is the next evolution, the next step, the next stage that I want to see from Sandbox. We've seen better teamwork. We've seen slightly better aggression. There's been points where we've maybe said they could have gone a little bit quicker. But other than that, it's been a better performance. What I want to see now is better adaptation. You know you can't do the same thing over and over again. And I love it. Shio comes in, exactly what I'm asking for. From a new angle onto the same position, gets his man in a different way. Beautiful opener.
That's the kind of stuff that you want to be seeing for sure. But the difficulty is for Spear, at least, it's again another entry that's gone against them. It's more great play coming out of Sandbox. Once again, they found 2 entry kills in the round in a row, and we've still got most of the round to play, Tim. Their early kills have been lightning quick throughout these rounds, and that is what I think is giving them so much room to breathe and why they look so comfortable.
Kyle taking a little bit of damage there, just off goo mines up at the top of the marble stairs, as well as maybe a shot or two from Mephi, who he's just sort of floating around that area, trying to make it difficult. Good boy, he's getting aggressive here. He's got himself into archives. This is sort of a more forward position than Sandbox achieved last time. They did lose out to somebody coming through from the teller's side, and they're saying that's not going to happen again. They're aware that Royboy is playing inside of there, and he's going to find himself challenged. This pinch needs to be well timed. They need the Iana pushing in. Good boy needs to move while the challenge comes in from the spiral. Beautiful as Arakaze manages to take him down. 5 versus 2 now, 45 seconds left to go, and this is that moment, Des, that we've talked about in round 1 and round 2. Have that setup, have that execution ready, and then go for it. Punch through and don't leave it to the last 10 seconds.
There's probably a piece here on the fact they've got 7 drones left alive. They have 40 seconds. This is a great time to get some information. And sure enough, Shyle, Arakaze, both getting on drones here, trying to find a little bit of information to make this safe. But they haven't got the mute jammers off these walls, and Static's not going to be able to get this one opened up. If they leave this too late, this could still come back to bite them. Good Boy's just gone marching in towards site, though. Still looking for his numbers. They found Mephi. 1 more to go. Do they know where he is? Yes, they do. Good Boy with the closeout. Who cares about the quad wall when you can find quad rounds? 4-0. To Sandbox.
This is looking a bit, it's men against boys at the minute, to be honest with you. Spear are not coming close to rounds. Sandbox, if anything, are getting more and more dominant. They come back from a tactical timeout for Spear there and hit them with a flawless round. It's just gone from bad to worse, and Spear really don't seem to have an answer at the minute. They could be staring at a 6-0 half here, because out of all of those sites, I'm now thinking, where have they looked likely to win? And I can't give you an honest answer, Des, because
this is it.
Lockers, they weren't anywhere near. CEO, they weren't anywhere near. That's probably going to be the 2 sites that we see them try now. I think, rather than looking at the site, we've got to look at the part of the round that Spear Gaming need to win, and it needs to be the early round. They can't be giving up 1 or 2 kills within the first minute and a half, as they have done consistently so far.
The danger is you've had a tactical timeout, which is really the round after when you should be looking the best. But then you come into this, and you've just been flawless round, you've been slapped about for fun. Where do you go from there? You've had your time to discuss, to try and amend things. Unless you're now admitting, right, look, boys, we're going to lose this next round as well. We're going to get spanked here. We need more time to figure things out. Just play it casual. Let's have a conversation. Even then, you can be down 5-0. And I can't imagine any team would go for a chat like that. Of course, they're still trying to figure things out here, but I kind of fear at the point where you're down 4-0, a team's overbearing on you to this level, you're struggling to see the light. I mean, look, Good Boy 7-2, Static 3-0, Shyle 6-0. You're not even close to stopping these players.
No, absolutely not. Like you said, it's got to start with a kill, and it's got to snowball from there. And for me, it needs to be that entry kill. Spear need to give themselves something to believe in, essentially, at the beginning of this round. Now, they're being hunted down. Sandbox are aware that they're up on that top floor. It is going to get hairy up there unless they decide to fall back to site. At the minute, there's a little bit of movement there from Royboy inside. That's better. Manages to get that opener onto Arakaze. But look what happens. There's immediate answer. Sandbox are there. They've got the trade, and it's 4 versus 4. No real advantage to Spear.
Oh, man. It's, balancing it out is one thing. Turning that into a more leading advantage is another. Like you say, it's a 4v4, but it still doesn't really feel like they've gained all that much. What I will give to Spear is we're halfway through the round, and things are still even. They haven't lost 2 in the early round like we've seen so many times over, but Sandbox has still got so much to work with here. They've got the flashes, they've got the smokes, they've got the hard breach, they've still got all the tools they need to pull this off.
Having lost Arakaze, you talk about tools, it's not the end of the world for Sandbox. You know, they could have lost much more important operators to begin with. The Book has got very little work to do down into the basement here. Good boy. He knows there's going to be somebody still inside of open area. Crazy boy decides enough is enough, going to drop himself away, rips the nitro out, it goes, but nobody had followed in quickly enough for that to be a problem. Envy was still upstairs, and so will continue fighting. A little bit of damage there. I'm not sure if that came from the nitro or not. Could have been a bit of vertical damage going on there through the hatch, but it's not going to matter at this point. 50 seconds left to go. Hatch is getting open. Sandbox just posturing to try and get themselves into position to put this diffuser down, which for the first time so far today, Des, I'm sort of feeling like they might actually have to do.
Very possibly so. Let's see how things shape up though in this last 30 seconds. It's pinch time here with the Goyo canisters starting to burn out. Clearly a push in through blue, part of the consideration at least, but it looks to be actually a drop. No doubt towards the south side instead. Main stairs. Shyle. That was the freebie you need. We've seen players cross there before and pay with it with their lives by not being careful. In fact, it happened to Sandbox last week as a great example. But here's Crazy Boy stays on his feet. Mephi has got himself dug in deep. He may well be the last line of defense.
Manages to get the kill on the drop there, and it just feels like Sandbox are possibly out of ideas here. Nitro, we've got a Vulcan canister kill. Static manages to get one, but without getting that diffuser on the ground, it's not going to matter. He has to go for it, but the shotgun is there. NL closes down that attempt, and Sandbox, again, just a little bit too slow in the mid to late round there, left them scrambling. I mean, Des, they had the thermite of Static opening elevator hatch with 15 seconds left to go. That stuff's got to be done by that point.
It has. And again, this is the kind of thing I speak about where if they've got that early advantage and they can turn it into a win, great. If you're going 1-for-1, then you can kind of understand why things might get slowed down a little bit more. And you could see towards the end, they were still scrambling for what was the idea there. If that push came through onto Crazy Boy and they knew that in a 4 versus 3, different conversation. You know that garages are being held. You know the hatches are safer to come dropping through, arguably at least make use of your smokes and your flashes to make it easier. In that context, though, 4 versus 4, there's far too much to consider with 15 seconds left on the clock. So I'm glad to see Spear at least get something on the board. If nothing else, it's going to be more of a consolation prize. If they get 4-2 here, they've really done a smash and grab against Sandbox in this first half.
Absolutely, it's a steal. I was just going to say exactly the same. If I'm Sandbox, I am not happy with a 4-2 here. I want a 5-1. They've been so dominant in this first half that to walk away with anything less than a 5-1, I feel you'd have to say was a failure on the attack, you know, given the way they've dominated that early phase. Now, it's all going to come down to this one. They're up on the top floor. Crazy Boy's got the Valkyrie, always a tricky operator to play against. It's going to mean that Spear should be very well informed. Maybe something that they've struggled with a little bit. They haven't always seemed to know that those challenges are coming, particularly when they've been facing pinchers. We've got Arakaze on the Monty again, which isn't going to make things any easier. We saw him last time trying to march up the spiral stairs in main lobby. I think it'll probably be the same again. He's heading in that direction now. Spear, for me, again, need an early kill here. Last time, if you remember, Sandbox got the opener. Good boy manages to do it once again. I think that's the 3rd time that he's taken Royboy down as an opener. And as I explained last time, it just means Arakaze is now a man over. The shield can be utilised, and it could be a big problem.
I don't think they've missed an entry so far this game. I need to put the stat sheet to have a quick look, but
Royboy got the last one.
The last round. Outside of that one, then I think every single one has been with them. That's just how dominant it has been in the early round. And I'm glad the scoreline's reflecting it, rather than us being at 3-2, 2-3, whatever it might be. They have got the lead as a result, which is the most important part.
Just looking for the long angle there after the square skylight wall has been breached. That means there's a big problem for Spear here because they're being pushed from 3 different directions. They've got somebody on the windows, they've got that breach to deal with, and now they've got Arakaze who's going to try to march up the spiral stairs, and therefore that makes an extremely important kill for Crazy Boy onto Envy Taylor because it removes one of those angles. You can now see all 3 players are on one side. So as soon as Spear Gaming recognise this, they've got the Valkyrie Black Eyes that might just help them do so. Once they recognise that the push is coming from one point, all guns will face in that direction. They don't need to think about anything else, and they can just front up the threat that is coming to them. This is very winnable for Spear.
Shyle might be the threat here. He's actually just beelined his way straight up to the top of the stairs. Does he know where anyone is? Because right now attention should be being soaked out by the Monty, and there it is. A swing comes in, but Shyle wins out the fight, but it's a trade back elsewhere. On the map, it's Static falling down to Mephi. 3v2, with one of them being a Monty. It feels for Sandbox like once again, they might just fall short.
They really needed to not lose Static at that point there. Shile's low health, and now he's having to come up and make challenges that it looks like players are sort of expecting it. We just saw the player inside of Janitor there having a little look over in this direction. NL, he's well prepared. He knows that it's coming from both sides, but he's ready for this fight. As he takes a couple of bullets, it's just basically an alarm clock to say, yep, the fight is here, and it is now. But somehow Shyle manages to get it. But Crazy Boy, every time Shyle gets a kill, somebody loses their life following it. Shyle unlucky there not to get himself a second. Mephi closes it out, and Spear somehow come away from this first half 4-2 down, but we would have expected much worse.
Whew. I mean, for Spear, again, real smash and grab. I was convinced after they lost the first round after timeout, down 4-0, this was going to be 5-1, if not 6-0, and Sandbox would just steamroll their way after a couple of rounds of defense, maybe to get the win. But instead, Spear are in with a fighting chance. Do I still think it's a hill too steep to climb? Probably. I think a lot's going to ride in this first round. If Sandbox win, one, it's already setting the pace for how defense is going to play out, and we get an idea of how the rest might go. They'll also be up 5-2. One more round at the very least guarantees overtime. We'll see how they play this one. Is it going to be out on the roam, or is it quite static? They have got 3 ops that can get out around the map here in terms of Envy, Shyle, and potentially the Azami of Good Boy, whereas you're very likely to see this double denial setup of the Chanka and the Smoke coming together.
Sandbox, questions are going to be asked. If they can, like you say, get these first couple, then it starts looking a little bit different for them. But I tell you what, if Spear get this first attacking round, it could be panic stations for Sandbox. They could well be remembering last week's result without too much favour. We're going to have Tachanka opening almost everything up here. We've even got hatches being opened up, not closed off. Exactly that. So it's going to mean that there has to be a mid and top floor presence. We've got server hatch closed up. So an odd combination, really. If you're going to play on the mid floor, sometimes it can be worth leaving that server hatch open or soft at least, so that you can challenge into servers should they take over that area. You can support your players that are inside of there. But for the time being, it's going to be top and mid floor take for Spear.
I was going to say, surely they want to reinforce the admin hatch. I think it's been left soft and they do want to get it done, so maybe they'll have someone run over and reinforce that in a moment. But at least for now, there's going to be this big clear across the top side of the map. We always know this. You see the roamers out and about around the map. You can see the Azami doing so. You can see Charlotte and the Malusi as well. The two of them like peas in a pod here inside of a staff room and open area. Printer no doubt going to come under challenge at some point soon too. And Mephi's looking to apply pressure from above. So really the big question is, how much time can Sandbox waste here before having to drop away? If you waste in 2/3 of the round, perfect. Fantastic roam overall.
Crazy Boy getting the drone out there. Sayora managing to find the man at the top of blue stairs. A little bit of damage onto Envy Taylor, but not too much. Certainly not too much to force him away. I wouldn't have thought. Shyle once again, that's his third opener so far on the day, taking NL down and giving Sandbox a real boost here. Diffuser outside, another kill for Good Boy. This is falling apart for Spear as Good Boy gets himself a second. It's 5 versus 2. Despite Shyle being down, he's managed to get himself back to site. You'll love to see it, Des.
I spoke about wasting a couple of minutes and getting away. That would be the perfect roam. They decided to one-up that. They got themselves 3 kills and both have made it back down to site. Shyle, no doubt being res, wants in a bit of a safer position, as well as Roy Boy is lurking from above here, looking to do some damage. There's Shyle back up. Looks like it's going to be a 5-2, Tim.
certainly looking that way. As I said, it was a very important round for Spear. They got themselves a couple. If they could have got the momentum here back within one round, you start feeling like anything is possible. But with Sandbox looking so solid here, particularly on that mid-floor hold, not allowing Spear anywhere near Staffen Open until they'd lost no fewer than 3 lives. It leaves Spear now sort of scrambling, trying to get themselves into any favourable position. They've got no hard breach to be able to open those walls. They've lost that ability with the operators that have died. We can see the Vulcan canister just being opened up to try and burn out remaining seconds of the round. There's only going to be about 20 seconds left to go once that fire dies down. There's the potential for there to be more. We see again then those Tachanka canisters just coming across the top there to make it continually difficult for Sayora to get anything going here.
They've still got 6 of the Shumikers left and they're still raining out. They find one more, sure. Sayora gets a consolation prize, but that is all it's going to be. A consolation prize as they'll lose this round and Sandbox will go at 5-2.
And you feel like now Sandbox are going to be going to a secondary site. I would guess probably CEO up on the top floor. If they get their second choice, which generally speaking teams are very good first and second choice, you're looking at a potential 6-2 half. It's actually going to be Staffen Open, so they're going for that mid-ground. But again, it's an area that they defended really well last time around, managed to keep hold of it, managed to get themselves a couple of kills. So I think Sandbox are going to be just fine here trying to lock it down on the mid-floor. Spear Gaming, I think they're going to need to get a crowbar out to take Sandbox out of bank.
And some dynamite maybe here. Really got to pull off a real Italian job to get this one over the finish line, because for Sandbox, up at 5-2, that last round was completely dominant. Now, there's probably question marks you start pointing in towards Spear and being like, guys, you lost 3 players trying to push the same 2 people. What the hell happened there? And that's really sign 1. The first death we saw was a little bit of misfortune. The next 2 were challenges that just went wrong and they weren't quite synced up as a team the way they needed to be. No doubt a big part of it down to the way that Sandbox played it as well. Real big kudos to the 2 roamers. But you can't be affording to lose 3 players trying to push in towards open area like that without getting nothing in response.
Just going to have footholds opened up by Veto. I'm going to use the power of the 0.50 just to get those blasts done. Give the lines of sight that they need inside of sight. But you just get the feeling that a lot of this battle is going to be fought away from these rooms, particularly, I think, up on the top floor. It's going to be fairly hard fought. The confidence that Sandbox will have in their early round game so far is not going to lead them to giving up much territory to Spear. I think they're going to be keen to get a kill or 2 before they try to drop away. 30 seconds in. Spear are moving pretty quickly here. NL sends the drone in ahead, and we're potentially going to have Mephi already moving in on the Ash.
Go back to the last round as well. I think it was a really smart little adaptation in terms of the reinforcement on the thermite wall, by the way. Like, that normally is set up so you can't get down a hard breach charge onto it, or even a breaching charge in general. You have to bring a Zofia or an Ash, and reinforcing it off when they killed the 2 ops with the hard breach gadget. Just again, real smart adaptive play out of Sandbox. That's a good sign of the kind of things they've been bringing into this game. But now at least no massive challenge coming in from Spear, and again, digging back to what Sandbox are doing in the first half. Normally by this mark, Tim, they'd found 2 kills to start the round off. For Spear, it's a little bit slower.
It is. NL just taking a few pot shots at the square skylight stairs. I don't know if there was any information there for him to just believe that there might be somebody pushing up on the flank, but he's going to pre-fire it nonetheless. Sandbox push back, but no challenges have been found, as you say, by Spear. They're trying to push in, they're trying to find angles, but it just feels like Sandbox have got that locked down at the minute. Spear can start working from the vertical. We see nicely ahead of us, perfectly timed. Crazy Boy is going to be doing exactly that, supported by Sayora on the book as well. Between Sledge and Buck, we should see almost the entire floor being ripped up. That's going to be one way to stop somebody playing inside of Tellers. But you want to see another? Roy Boy just showed you. He shuts down Static, managing to get a nice entry there, and that is exactly the start Spear needed.
That's a good start. Now you got to try and keep on rolling it and snowballing it all the way forwards. Good boy, C4 in hand, is just daring to hear the first sound of footsteps upstairs in Janitor, and it will be the biggest freebie of his life. Not exactly the largest room there, which can do you much good. And for now, no one's actually stepping into challenge. Not really a worry. In fact, there we go. In comes his prey, but his C4's the wrong side. Doesn't find the sledge. It's not the end of the world, but that would have been a great way to balance the score lines.
Chris Boy, again, just trying to use those soft walls, try and use those verticals, just get any advantage that he can for Spear, just to try and keep them in this one. Make sure that they're using that man advantage that they've got. They're going to get the Selma charges on, but we see an impact nade come out and take out a whole bunch of them, Des. And Arakaze, he manages to take out Royboy. That level sings up at 4v4, 16 seconds left to go. Here comes the onslaught, and it's Sandbox on top of it. As Spear just move into a blender in the kitchen, Des, getting absolutely cut down. Sayora outside of the door is the last to fall, and that is Sandbox with an absolute show of defiance there. 4v5, it doesn't matter to us because we've got site locked down, and that is 6-2.
It's 2 rounds in a row where their site hold has been absolutely fantastic. 1, where was this team last week? 2, Spear are kind of having their only real chance in a round coming in being against the early roamers, getting the entry, feeling like they've got something good going, but then they slow down. And for Sandbox, there's no reason to panic. Even when you've got someone dropping in through the stock hatch, even when someone's pushing in through double door around kitchen, it doesn't bother them. They're dealing with it. They trust each other to have those angles held down and kill the players that are pushing in. It just looks very much unflappable right now. They're at 6-2, and one more round will net them the 3 points and essentially move to put the game from last week far back into history.
Here we go then. Top floor for Sandbox underway. CEO, we've seen them defend 2 rounds so far. We've seen them win 2 defenses so far. And as you quite rightly said, Des, I've no idea where this Sandbox was last week. I would very much like to compare the 2 games. You know, their placements, positioning, the fights that they've won, the fights that they lost, and just see how stark that contrast is between one and the other, because I think it would be very, very noticeable. Now, we get to business at hand. We're into the action phase. Arakaze brings along the Echo. As if Spear need any more problems, they're going to be having to deal with the Yokai drones as well. Now, they're going to dump the Claymores outside of the windows for the time being. Mephi having a little bit of joy when they defended this site with going out of the window and getting a kill. It's not something that they want to suffer themselves. And meanwhile, they're going to be getting those SAM cams out as well. The reason that that one's been positioned as it has, that singular electric bolt that it has, was it there to deal with any denial that was on the elevator walls if there was any mute jammers, but there wasn't one present.
So he gets to take a free pot shot at the Yokai and misses. Unfortunate. Would have been nice.
It is. Those are the opportunities you've got to take, though, because just keep that in mind. If you're watching at home, just keep that in mind. When we get to the last 10 seconds, a diffuser plant is going down and a Yokai disrupts it. Just remember that moment.
We'll see if it comes down to that, of course. At the minute with the entry going against Sayora, part of me says we'll never even get anywhere near a plant going down, that Sandbox will have full control of the map and that Spear will be the one scrambling to try and find a way through. For now, again, we've got to that point where they've sort of started the round. Sure, they've lost a player, but then things have really slowed down. They're either sat on drones or were at least earlier on, but you've got 4 players off drones here looking to make something happen, and it's a little bit limited in terms of what's actually happening. We had Crazy Boy get inside just now and open things up at least a little bit too, so it's a good start. But again, I can't help but feel the pace has just really kind of been taken out of the round.
Yeah, it does feel that way. It's like Spear have lost, and it's not really the Spear head necessarily. It's not the individual player that you're looking to go in and get those entries. You know, you're looking maybe more towards Royboy to do that with the way that he's gunning at the minute. But Sayora being taken out really does just seem to have taken all the sting out of the tail of the Spear game and what was left of it. Now, Crazy Boy does manage to get a kill onto Static, but don't get too excited. It was a Claymore. As Static decided with a minute left to go, that was the time to fling himself out of those windows and see if he could find a kill. It's not really the end of the world taking that opportunity, 4 versus 4, but as the next kill comes in from Mephi, leaving us 4v3, you might start asking some questions.
What a will when Mephi's the one playing hard breach. Arakaze and the aggressive swing out towards Lobby brings down one more, but they've managed to hold down sight. NL is out to Mephi, playing on the fragmite here. Is he going to find his frags? He's got himself a couple, but still going to bring down Charlotte and Envy Taylor, the raid bosses of this team. They've been on it for as long as it's existed, it feels like. So for these two to fall down now would represent a big turning point in the game for Mephi. He finds one, but can he find Charlo, who's sat at 2 and 3? I don't think he even knows where he is at this point. You may as well collect your KD, my son, as you're not going to be able to find the last. A very comfortable turnaround compared to last week for Sandbox.
I thought Shaol was just going to keep himself out of danger there. It looked like he'd headed into the corridor with the information that was being fed in from Envy Taylor, but no, just positions himself to pick up the final kill after Mephi comes in and downs, finishes off the wounded Envy Taylor. Great performance from Sandbox. Des, we are talking about them in very different terms to how we were last week.
Thank God.
I'm glad to see that they've come back and given us a better performance. I really didn't want any more of that action, and they've really upped their game today.
Absolutely, especially I think between the top two there in Charlotte and Good Boy. I think it was 12-5, 11-3. Those are the kind of dominating performances that you want to see. And for me, I know everyone's really hyped about Good Boys, this new 18-year-old young gunner. For me, it's Charlotte that really got me in that game, because looking back through history, it was always Envy and Charlotte as the big duo putting up the numbers. Charlotte's been quiet for a good amount of time, but that was a really, really solid performance from him.
Yeah, it was. Everybody on Sandbox, it felt like, had their moments in one way or another, whether it was Shaol getting all those big kills, getting the entries and pushing them through, or whether it was the site play that we saw. The setup, particularly on staff and open area, impressed me, just the bloodbath at the end of it. And Sandbox were well on top of it and well on top of the game overall.
On top, in control, great way to summarise them overall. But I'm sure there are some experts over there that don't want to just summarise them, they want to go through this in more depth. So let's go to a quick break. When we come back, the desk, I'll break it down for you.